Welcome to the 8th edition of the Joe Berry Award podcast series. These podcasts, presented by former winners of the Joe Berry Award and award sponsors, are designed to provide insight into the retail market during and after the COVID-19 pandemic. Our presenters today are Joe Berry Award winner Esra Ozege with James Hepworth, General Manager Non-Foods Woolworths, discussing essay writing and employer support for Joe Berry entrants. Esra, who was Customer Development Head for Mars, won the 2018 Joe Berry Award. Her winning presentation focused on algorithms and retail pricing. James has been a judge for the awards in 2020. The previous podcast provided you with a preview of our 2021 award topics. Final topics will be posted on opening day, November 1st, 2020, on Facebook and the Joe Berry Award and on LinkedIn. 2021 will be the 35th presentation of this unique and prestigious award, which will for the first time be promoted globally. The Joe Berry Award podcasts have the objective of getting you involved and ready to register in November. The Joe Berry Award provides us a unique level of exposure for you and your career aspirations. We hope that you have enjoyed this podcast series. There are many employees who register for this prestigious award but do not complete an essay entry. We would like to see many more retail industry people taking the time to advance their career through an award entry and the exposure that it presents. Esra has a remarkable record for preparation that she applies to her writing, perfect for giving you a guide into a Joe Berry Award essay. James, having been on our judging panel, will outline the respect that employers have for the award and why they encourage their team members to get involved. Esra, what does it take to get yourself ready for a Joe Berry Award essay?
I think for me, there's probably three parts to the process of preparing an essay. The first one for me was choosing a topic. When I went through the process, it was really important for me to find a topic that was going to be relevant to the judges at the time of judging 6 months down the track. So for me, the reason I chose global pricing algorithms at the time was because in late 2017, it was the industry was rife with rumors about the impacts that bring and entering our shores. So it was definitely, I think for me, finding a topic that was going to be relevant to the audience and drawing their attention. The second thing I think for me was around conquering the fear of starting. And I guess the third thing being sort of discipline and sacrifice. The process I went through really was around doing as much research as I possibly could and getting that on paper. And when I'd conquered the fear of starting, applying the right level of discipline and making enough sacrifices that I was able to commit to the process and give myself enough time to get enough essays and revisions done that I could better each version, working my way towards the submission date. I used whiteboards for my process, post-it notes, and refined my format as I went and sought quite a lot of feedback along the process. I think that was probably the driving factors for me in preparing for my essay submission.
Looking at that, so when you've done a lot of work and a lot of research to get ready, but what really was the motivation for you to commit to getting involved and writing an essay?
Well, I guess the award for me, it was appealing for a number of reasons, namely the opportunity to study an important issue that's going to impact the Australian retail landscape, to present my views on that issue to a broad group of industry leaders, and to establish myself among them as a future industry leader. I knew the experience would build my capability and awareness of current trends and issues facing our retail landscape. But day to day in FMCG, it's so easy for us to become so insular and focus on our own business challenges. The Joe Berry Award and writing that essay was the opportunity I wanted to take a step forward and study the biggest issue facing our industry and to formulate my views on them in order to ground myself as a future leader with a voice.
James, what would you see as a good reason to commit to writing an essay?
Look, I unfortunately never entered the Joe Berry Award. It's one of my big regrets. I've been in Australia for 11 years now, and although I look too old to have entered, I could have actually squeezed in. So I wish I had. I think I would have achieved a huge amount of personal growth and learning from it. I think, as Esra said, in our day-to-day work, we can just get sort of swept up in BAU. And committing to writing a Joe Berry essay and going through that process of research and learning, and the growth I think that comes from that our essay writers feel and achieve is it's a fantastic thing. So I think that people have sort of called it a journey of self-discovery. I think that process of writing and submitting an essay brings a huge amount of achievement and satisfaction for the essay writers.
Taking that as a lead, then, what do you think the managers and the leaders see in the award? Why would you want, as a leader, to have more people entering?
I think it's a leader's role to try to foster an environment where teams and individuals can achieve their potential. And I think writing an essay in Joe Berry helps to do this, not just from a professional level through learning and commitment and achievement, which I just talked, but that personal growth that I think people get. It takes a huge amount of courage, I think, to decide to enter. That's often, I think, the most difficult step is, having the courage to say, I'm going to write an essay. And having it done that and submitted, I think entrants get a huge amount of confidence from that. They build confidence. And as a leader, why wouldn't you want that for your team? So I think it's a fantastic process. And those people that do enter and write an essay get a huge amount of benefit from that, both professionally and personally. From the Woolworths point of view, the leader within Woolworths, also the whole process aligns very much to our core values and ways of working as well. Two of our core values are that I listen and learn, and I care deeply. And I think committing to writing an essay in Joe Berry align with that very well.
We regularly get a few people who don't tell anybody in their organisation that they're going to write an essay or they're intending to get in. What you're saying is you would really rather that they made it public, or at least made their leaders know that that's what they're intending to do?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I've been quite close to the Joe Berry Awards, although I only judged last year, but for a number of years now, encouraging my teams to enter. And I'm blown away when someone comes up and says, oh, I entered, I submitted my essay already. And I don't underestimate how much work obviously goes into researching and writing an essay. So I'm blown away when that happens. And I would absolutely encourage people who are even thinking about entering an essay to let their team and their line manager know. Just because just that support network that's there and available to help and assist, coach and mentor, but also just in day-to-day, the time that people invest in writing and researching these essays. It's a huge help if a line manager can support with making sure they understand what that person is going through writing an essay. So yeah, I'd absolutely encourage people to let their line management know, let their team know, and let as many people know as possible, because you'll be surprised how many people step forward to help.
Yeah, the help is definitely a big part of getting a good Joe Berry essay in. Speaking of that, Esra, what was the hardest part of getting yourself through an extensive essay?
You mean besides the word count?
Yeah, besides the yeah.
Besides I think my first essay was 18,000 words and the limit was 2,500. So that was definitely a struggle for me. I think the hardest part though, I think you're right. There's a part of it where you have to make a decision about who you engage on your journey, who you bring in. And I think there was a real moment for me where, my leader was aware of it because it was my leader who brought Joe Berry to my attention and asked me to register. But outside the scope of that, there was probably no one else in my business. And I think it's really hard when you set the expectation, especially when people know that you're either a high performer or someone who's quite ambitious or dedicated. Your mind starts racing to the next part of the process. And I think it was really hard to sort of ground yourself back on what part of the process that you're currently in. So I know when I was writing my essay, I was thinking, but what happens when I go to the panel? And I remember even you and I, Keith, had a lot of conversations and you said, stop worrying about the panel. Worry about that when you get there. Focus on your essay. Focus on your recommendations. Focus on the content that you're trying to deliver and how you're trying to deliver it. And I think the other probably hard part for me was the only essays I've written were in law school. And we're very literature review based, very academic writings. And unless you're particularly enthused by like constitution law or providing a a literature review of the content or cases that are out there, that's not what they're looking for in Joe Berry. So it was really hard for me to say, how do I now inject personality into this writing? Because in law school, you're taught the exact opposite. So for the first time in my life, I had to prepare an essay based off my personal opinions about where I thought it would go, and anchor on bringing together different ideas instead of things that other people have said. And so that was probably a really hard part for me. And then finally, just making it entertaining enough or interesting enough that I would capture their attention right the way through the essay. I actually had a bit of a game I played with my husband, and I'd ask him to read, I think he read 21 versions of my essay. Yeah, he's a great man, obviously. But so the brief to him was, stop when you get bored. And on some versions, he didn't make it past the second paragraph. And so it was a really good opportunity to get feedback and to go back and to revisit it and to just bring it down and bring it back down to everyday language to ensure that the reader was getting the message.
So you mentioned before that your leader was the person who got you into that. Did the business give you much support in getting ready with or part of your writing of that essay?
I think there's probably two parts of support for me. The first one was the encouragement. So I felt really fortunate. There was actually 3 different people in my business who had actually watched yourself and Rory present in a leadership forum and had separately approached me over the course of a week and asked me to register. So the first thing was I felt like I had their confidence because they'd obviously asked me to consider participating in the award. But in terms of actual support, for me, it was really the connections, because I wanted to test my hypothesis on industry professionals. And I knew because I was going down a global pricing algorithm conclusion and topic, there were other people in the industry who had better knowledge of this topic and actually applied it in stores. And so it was using the business's support to leverage those contacts to be able to test that hypothesis in real world situations and actually have the conversation with the retailers and other industry professionals. That was probably the best piece for me.
Sorry, James, picking up on that, and you've had a chance to read some essays and to judge the final presentation. To you, what makes a very good entry?
Well, it helps that essays are well written and sort of easy to read, that they've been researched well and have good references. But I think the ones that really stand out are those that make the reader stop and think. And I was blown away by the quality of the essays last year. After I think every single one, I was, I got onto the internet and started to read into the topics more myself. They really, caught me and got me interested in the topic. I think that's a real talent when you're writing an essay, to get the reader interested and to learn something new is fantastic when you're reading an essay. I think the other real distinction in a really good essay is the passion that comes through in the writing, the passion for the topic comes through, and we can see that not just in the sort of the body of the essay, but the conclusion. You can really see that the writer is interested in the topic, is passionate about the change in the industry and what the future brings. I think that's the sort of differentiator between a good and a great essay.
It's interesting in that point, because we know from many years now that the essay readers, the people who are assessing and scoring those essays, really enjoy it on the basis of the education that's being provided to them. They don't have time to do that amount of research work. So anybody who's writing an essay and entering is actually, in a sense, reverse educating their leaders, particularly on a topic. And I know Esra's presentation on algorithms had a fairly silent room for quite a while, because they were very, very interested in hearing, what were the ramifications of an algorithm to the way that they work today, a little bit like a pandemic, I think, for some of them. James, will employers support essay writers, and what advice should they seek when they're preparing to write?
Yeah, well, I hope that employers would support essay writers. I know within Walrus, we'd love to provide more support than we do. I think, and that is based on the fact that, as I said, a lot of people just make the decision privately and submit an essay all on their own. So yeah, I think whether it is access to industry experts within an organization or links to experts in the industry, I think whether it is the opportunity to review, read, and give feedback to essays and draft essays, whether it is just creating time in day-to-day BAU to give the essay writer some time to think and explore topics that employers and leaders should and do give support to essay writing. I think it's really incredibly important.
Esra, on that same topic, what's your thoughts now, having been through the process, of the support you will get?
Having now been on the other side, so having now been, I guess, part of a sponsor company where we are enthusiastically encouraging our associates to get involved, I've seen what really good support could look like. And I think part of that is sort of mentoring through the process. Really getting an indication early on through yourself about who has registered, because there are, as you said, some people who are registering but are not raising that with the business. So you can actually take steps to offer them support, to offer them time during their workday to make the right connection to help test their hypothesis. I think a lot of these things are really important parts of the Joe Berry process, but also to give them that exposure within the business. For me, I actually did practice panels after I got in, after I became a finalist. I think it was like a 4 or 5 week window between finding out I was a finalist and presenting to the panel. Then I found out I got a HR mentor who was helping me on presenting with influence. And then every week I had practice panels week after week after week. And every week that audience got bigger. I remember you came to one of my practice sessions. We won't talk about how terrible it was. Obviously it developed every week. You came to one that was quite early. that audience also grew in seniority. And I think being able to apply that process to help our own associates within our business really prepare to walk in there and conquer with the confidence and the support of their business, I think really will give them an edge. I obviously we had, a couple of associates go through the process last year. I say last year, but it was this year. The process obviously started last year. And I think just giving them the support to understand that you're here if they want to reach out, that they'll have your discretion, but you'll be willing to support, read essays, ideate with them. I think a lot of that will go a very long way to ensuring that the associates are feeling empowered through the process. They've got the right level of support of their business, and knowing that there's a team of people there that are willing to step up and lend a hand and take some of the weight off, because it can be quite scary and quite an anxious process.
Moving that then on to the other side of the award, having won it, what's your development been like since that time?
Joe Berry, for me, the whole process, it was an absolute surreal experience. I think I've actually changed companies since I won the award, and I think for me, winning the Joe Berry Award gave me the confidence to be able to pursue my dreams. I think Mars Wrigley was obviously a sponsor company of the Joe Berry Award, and as part of that award, having the opportunity to do a retail study tour and be able to engage with Mars in the US across multiple offices, for me, gave me really great exposure. Not only did I meet amazing people through businesses, but people who had tenure in business that were 20 or 30 years long, who had global careers. And I found myself craving the opportunity to work for a business that was going to develop me to pursue a global career. And I think Joe Berry made the introductions, and the award gave me the confidence to pursue it, to wait for the right opportunity. And I'm incredibly honoured and proud of where I've ended up in terms of where I'm working with Mars and the talent that I'm surrounded by. But I think if you're talking about development, there are so many different aspects of that. I mean, I got to go and do a retail study tour and meet with many large global businesses. Outside of that, I got to get personal mentoring by the CEO and president of Walmart. As you know, I got to spend multiple days working with their business and getting coaching and challenging their strategy, something that I would never in my wildest dreams imagine doing. And beyond that, I got to study at Harvard. I mean, all of these opportunities were things that were otherwise not available to me. So forget the general exposure and networking through the event and the actual process of building confidence. But I also feel like in terms of development, it really gave me a seat at the table and gave me the confidence to pursue my own ideas and the forums in which I could share those ideas, something that would not otherwise have been available to me had I not developed through this process.
James, one of the things that I've found most interesting over the years, particularly in the larger organisations like Woolworths, is the exposure that Joe Berry provides. I remember Anirudh Nair, who was more in the finance or technical side of your business, a little bit in the silo effect, being amazed at the number of people within the organisation that rang him and talked to him about the fact that he'd entered the award and had been recognised for his efforts. It's not quite unique to the big organisations, but it is a big part of getting people involved. I mean, do you see that exposure as being something that everybody should seek within the business?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's one of the huge benefits that comes from deciding to enter Joe Berry, writing an essay. If you're fortunate enough to become a finalist, that exposure brings a huge amount of benefit to the individual entrant. The most obvious one is the opportunity for meeting new people and the doors that they open. But I think what I've seen from people who have entered over the years is the strong network channels that are built through that increased exposure, just of writing and sharing an essay internally within a business. I think those networks helps the individual grow and build self-confidence within an organization. And I think it creates long-lasting relationships, and that's fantastic for those people to build a network of coaches and mentors, and not just within the organization, but I've been fortunate to meet lots of entrants from other organizations within the industry as well. I met Esra through this process a couple of years ago, and we've sort of stayed in touch with. So I think, that exposure absolutely is a benefit. And one of the reasons why I encourage people to make themselves known that they are deciding to enter and to seek help and to keep those doors open for people who step forward to offer assistance.
Yeah, there's a number of people in your organisation who've had that phone call from the CEO's office to say, come and have half an hour or an hour with me one-on-one.
Yeah, absolutely right. I mean, we take it seriously within the organisation, and I think it's, we're very proud of our entrance to finance. So, there's a huge amount of satisfaction knowing that some of the organisations has been selected as a finance industry award. But I think more than that, we're really proud of our team who go through the process of entering and put themselves out there and invest time and effort in researching and learning. And we want them to feel good about that. We want them to be well prepared, and we want to make sure that they see it as a positive experience. And to date, I think even those that have been hugely disappointed at the outcome, on reflection, that have always say what an incredible experience it's been, how rewarding it's been, and how much they're really pleased that they did make the decision to enter.
One of our exercise at the moment, and Tyler and I were in a meeting yesterday on getting more and more people. We get big registration numbers coming in. We don't get as many essays in as we would like. And we really are working hard to get more and more people submitting essays into this award. From both of you, and to finish off this podcast, how would you promote the award inside your business?
So we sort of encourage and advertise the fact that the award's coming up, and we sort of socialise the questions, and we ask people to consider entering broadly, and then we try to sort of give people a touch point and introduce them to past entrants to sort of talk about what the process is and how much work and effort is involved to make sure that we have the right amount of balance. I think what we hope to do, and what I would like to do as a leader, is just make sure that when people decide to enter, but decide that when they start writing an essay, it's not for them, I really want to be there at that point to be able to just give support and encouragement. Because I think people probably enter with all the right intentions, and when they put pen to paper or start to type out their draft essays, they realise it's actually quite a lot of work. So that's a time when they think it's just going to be a distraction from work. Whereas actually, I would really like to encourage employers to support essay writers and say, look, how do we help you get the right amount of balance? How do we help you create time in your working day? How do we help you by introducing you to people who are experts in the topic to give you support to write this essay? So that's what I'd like to do with Inside Wars, and that's what we're hopefully aspiring to. And we hope that more people who enter actually do submit essays through better support networks.
Yeah, and I think also for me, I think there's probably two ways that I think we can probably raise awareness in the business. And I think the first one is just generally raising awareness of what support is available. So I think this is something that has to come top down. So I picture something like in a very large, big scale meeting that has a majority of the business in there, have the leadership team talking about the award and how we as a business sponsor the award and why it's really important for the development of talent in the industry. And also, raise at that point what kind of support would be available if somebody is thinking of entering. And I think the second one is the direct approach, where you've identified, say, 5, 6, 10, whatever it might be, high performers where you think this would definitely support their development. And I think asking directly and supporting them directly to enter the award is another way for those who may be too shy to put their hand up and register that way. So I think there are probably two ways that I'd like us to approach it this year. That being said, I've already called out that my organisation, we're really fortunate enough to be sponsors. We've got a couple of winners in our midst in the business, so it's definitely something that has a very great profile. So it's just about building on that and just ensuring that we have the next level of talent coming through the business aware of the award and what it potentially could open up for them.
This is the final podcast in this series. We want to make sure that all of you who are contemplating a JBerry entry are aware of the support that you can get from your employer and from the award team. We want to help you put your best foot forward. We want to help your career bloom. You need help? Just ask. JBerry Award 2021 opens on November 1st, but you can pre-register from the beginning of October through our website, jberryaward.com.au. We were delighted to have Esra and James with us today. The information that you've provided has been fantastic in helping people get ready to write essays and to know that there is assistance out there. Thank you very, very much for being with us.
Thanks, Keith.
Thank you very much. Pleasure.